All right, so then to move on to a second point, which I think the biggest use of this platform is networking connections. One thing that I heard from several people who are well informed in LinkedIn and have a lot of experience is you have to be somewhat cautious with your connections. Now, you obviously made the point that you want to make those connections. It's very important. But also what I've heard is you should not be accepting invitations from someone if you do not exactly know who they are. Like, I know you and you know me. We're connected on LinkedIn. But if I don't know you, I've heard there's a risk of possibly someone looking through your LinkedIn, possibly future employers, and they're wanting to know how you would be an asset to the company. So they may reach out to that person and ask them, what can you tell me about so-and-so? They say, well, actually, I don't know them. Do you think that that's actually a risk, or do you think that you could probably get away with just connecting with people?
Good question. I've never not accepted an invitation on LinkedIn. I almost always reject an invitation on Facebook if I don't know the person. I think there's a big difference. So I don't know. I've never heard of problems on LinkedIn, and I'm not mitigating anything that you've heard or read, Thomas. But the whole idea is to build those networks. And again, this is a professional network, not a social media per se network. So I would say the risk is minimal on LinkedIn. Now, people will look at your profile. I get reports once a week. I just saw a report. 54 people saw my profile last week. I don't know what they're looking for. Maybe they were looking for somebody with a particular skill or an academic or who knows what. And I usually am not interested in looking at that because I honestly don't care. I'm not looking for employment right now. So if people are finding me through a search, great. At least I'm getting some activity, right? So I would say the rewards far outweigh the risk on LinkedIn to accept an invitation from someone who you don't know, because that person might be the connection to a third or fourth degree employer or partner or connection in business as a customer or supplier that you've been looking for.
Yeah, that's great advice for that there. I think that, obviously there's both ways to go. And, at the end of the day, also kind of go with your gut instinct. If you don't, that's what it's here for. It's here to enhance your professional career. So if you don't want that connection, there's no hard foul in not accepting it. But also, if you think it's something that could be valuable, if you think it's someone who would help you, by all means, I guess, go ahead and take that invite. It's obviously up to your discretion, but.
Well, you can also see, Thomas, if you just look at my screen right now, you can take the offensive. All right. Ariana Huffington. Okay. I'd like to connect with Ariana. She just got an invitation for me to see if I could connect with her. Richard Branson, founder of Virgin Airlines. That might be an interesting connection, right? Barbara Corcoran, who's on Shark Tank. I'd like to connect with her. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. That would be a nice one. So now I just sent 4 invites to connect. Now, whether they connect or not is up to them. But my guess, if they follow my advice, is they're going to connect with me. Now I've got their networks at my disposal. How powerful is that?
That's a lot of power to have in your hands right there. I mean, it's not every day you get to connect with Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
So I would like to use this to kind of segue into my second point, which is messaging. So for several people, getting those connections relatively easy, especially if you already have some experience. You've got like a built-up profile that is something that different connections can look at and say, yes, I'd like to follow you. Like, you obviously have a very built-up profile. You've worked very hard at it. And, there's a lot of people that would love to have you as a connection. But in my experience, I'm kind of newer to this whole experience, and I don't have as much of a repertoire. So I was in a class here at Benedictine for business writing, and we had a lot of guest speakers who were very accomplished, who had great jobs, great companies. And after class, we would always be invited to connect with them. The thing with that was, though, sending them a connection request did not always get you a connection. What I found was actually when you send them a message and say, "Hey, I'm a student here at Benedictine. I was in this class." They will then be more inclined to respond to you because they know who you are, they have an interest, and at the same time, when you send a message, if you really like that person or what they have to say or the company they're with, you can easily attach your resume to that, attach a cover letter if you'd like, and say, "Hey, I'm Thomas. I'm a junior finance major here at Benedictine. I love your company. Here's my resume. I was wondering if you get a chance to look over it, and I'd love to talk to you at some point." They're a lot more inclined to respond to that rather than just sending the random request with the built-in like greeting that LinkedIn adds.
I think that's very wise advice, Thomas. So I agree with you. The kind of passive desire to connect is not nearly as meaningful as a personal message, because these do have to be uh, tailored to a specific name. Okay, so I could message Machen McDonald here, who's a peer of mine and a worldwide consultant. I could say, "Hey, Machen, hey, guess what? My fourth book just got published this week. Here's a link to Amazon. Thanks for all your support and encouragement. Hope to see you soon." And he's going to have a message like these invitations or good wishes for a birthday or congrats on a work anniversary or who knows what. Here's Alonzo Jameson. Okay, Alonzo Jameson played basketball for University of Kansas on the 1992 NCAA runner-up team. Very good friend of mine, just a great guy. Well, he sent me a congrats on my work anniversary. So these do get responses. So I agree with 100%. A more active, targeted message, if you can reach someone directly, is better.
So a question I have that I sometimes I get caught up on LinkedIn is I'll have people that I'm messaging for various reasons, whatever it is I need to talk to them about. How do you suggest we treat messaging? Do we treat it as it's an email or treat it more as a text message? How formal and how business professional should it be? Should you like leave a sign off? What do you say to that?
Yeah, you opened up a a very interesting, passionate area of mine, because communication in business is evolving, and I have no doubts that at some point texting will be a legitimate form of communication in business. I mean, the WhatsApp app is an example of that. But I'll tell you right now, for if you're in a professional network, texting is not an appropriate means of communication. It's not. So I would treat this much more like an email. And again, you don't have to have a date. It's not a formal letter, right? It's a couple steps down from a formal letter, but you should have an intro to say, "Hey, hello, Machen, good to see you," and then some kind of text, and then some kind of closing. "Hey, hope to see you soon. My best, Dave or Thomas," or whatever you say. So I think that's much more appropriate than no acknowledgement up front, no invitation. Poor punctuation, poor capitalization, poor grammar. That's a showstopper for me. If I get one of those, I might read the first two words, and if I see it, I'm going to discard it. Now I'm older, so my guess is there's more tolerance for less of that in a younger person. But business isn't there yet; it's professional. So use complete sentences, punctuate well, capitalize well, intro and close well.
And if I can add on to that, with messaging people, your goal is to get them to talk to you. Now, what I say is probably going to be a little bit scary to some people, but for me, when I message you on LinkedIn, my next step is I want to talk to you on the phone or talk to you on Zoom. Like, this is only to get you talking to me, and then I'll say, can we talk on can we talk either via phone or via webcam, however works for you. But you need to get the person to come and talk to you with your voice, especially if you're wanting to get a job or if you want to build a much stronger connection with them. People respond well to seeing you or hearing your voice because a lot of what you want to say can't be conveyed that well over text. Tone matters. It's one of the most essential things when it comes to communicating with people. And especially with an employer, if they can hear your tone and you can convey your interest to them, convey that you want to be talking to them, that you're willing to make that time, that's very essential to them. And I think that, obviously it can be kind of scary, especially if you're not used to talking on the phone. I know I myself, I don't have a problem speaking on the phone. I obviously sometimes stumble on my words, but it's a phone call and they will usually be very inclined to speak to you on the phone because most people are not willing to talk on the phone anymore. So if you're willing to say, hey, can we talk on the phone or can we meet via Zoom? That, in my experience, is a tremendous impression because it shows you have that much more interest and that much more will to go get their attention and go talk to them.
I think that's great advice. I agree with you. I agree with you that today's tendency is not to talk on the phone. That's a skill that you've got to have. Don't text. And I think to initiate a more quality medium of communication from LinkedIn is a great advice, Thomas. Either ask, request. Could we correspond via email? Would you mind sharing me your email and or cell phone number? Or I'd be more than happy to share a personal Zoom link like you did, Thomas, here, so that we could so that I could ask you a few questions or whatever the topic is. I think that's excellent advice.
And to anyone who's watching, feel free to connect with me or Dave on LinkedIn. I will happily accept your invite. I'm sure Professor Geenens would as well.
Too.
The whole School of Business would love to help you as well as BC. So don't hesitate. Go ahead and connect with anyone else who is on here. Connect with your fellow classmates. These are people that could very well help you much farther down the road because everybody's got a different skill set and everybody's studying something different. For me, I am not great at accounting. I do not do well at that, but I know a lot of people who are in accounting. I'm good friends with a lot of accountants, and I think that their skill sets there could be tremendous with making new connections further down the road. And likewise, I have skill sets that I would be happy to share with anyone else who would be interested in connecting with me.